Hey, so today we're doing tier lists on horror movie remakes, and that's because I feel like a lot of these need defending, to be honest, and I'm going to go through them, say my thoughts on a bunch of them. These are all ones that I've seen. I went through a few default tiers, and they had a bunch of movies I hadn't seen, so it's like, well, what's the point of that? Let's make my own quickly, so I've done that. The categories, as you can see, are better than the original if I've seen the original, and then top tier shit if I haven't seen the original, but it's still an amazing film. Then there's solid remake, you know, and then there's whatever, fine, it's whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's just a pretty shit movie, but it's whatever. And then the last one is honestly just a mistake. They shouldn't have made it, or, you know, or they shouldn't have remade it, and it's horrible that they remade it, or whatever. But I feel like I'm not going to put anything in there for that reason, because I honestly am fundamentally not against remakes. I think they're fine. I'm for remakes. I think that it can be a fun idea. I think that it can bring a, you know, new audience to whatever the IP is, and it gives people a, you know, a chance to catch on, I guess, which is basically the same thing that I just said. But I like having the modern kind of updated versions of these movies because they can be fun, they can be different, and they can be fun. So yeah, let's just get to it, starting off with The Fly. So The Fly is going straight to top tier shit, but I have not seen the original. I didn't actually know that was a remake when I watched it. Sorry if that's blasphemous or whatever. But yeah, The Fly, David Cronenberg's Fly, is absolute perfection. I only watched it for the first time last year, and I went in expecting to not really like it all that much because of all the hype. I you know, heard about how great it is and everything, so I kind of went in expecting to just hate it and being like, nah, this is overrated shit. But you know what? No, The Fly is absolutely incredible. I love it, and I want to do a video on just that film alone at some point because it's one that really deserves it, and I just want to talk about it and how it's kind of actually is secretly this kind of romance movie, this tragic romance movie underneath all the blood and guts and gross shit. Like, that's something that I really like about it. It's much more grounded than I was expecting it to be. It's not just, you know, weird, nerdy, sci-fi horror shit. It's like, there's plenty of that stuff in there, which is cool as well. But there's also a really grounded story to it that's really human and really, really sad. It's actually just a really sad movie, to be honest. I think it's incredible. Then next up is Evil Dead, the 2013 remake of Evil Dead, which is a film that, I gotta be honest, is fine. I've never really been a fan of this film. I definitely don't think it's as good as the previous films. Maybe it's as good as the original. I like the original, but it's like not the best movie of all time. You know, there were obvious limitations to it and everything. I think it's kind of incredible what they were able to achieve with such a limited budget and stuff. But no, I don't think that the first film is like the height of cinema. I kind of do think that Evil Dead 2 is the height of cinema though, even though it's kind of the same film, just done again, but turned up to 11. It's so much more of a ridiculous film. I love Evil Dead 2. Anyway, yeah, I like the original trilogy much more than this remake. I just feel like the remake honestly kind of bores me. It takes itself too seriously. I like the horror comedy of the original. And yeah, this 2013 remake to me has always just felt really bland in comparison. And maybe if it didn't have the Evil Dead name and it was just called something generic, you know, it was called Cabin in the Woods, even though that was taken. But if it was called something like that and it was the exact same film, maybe I wouldn't have gone in with these expectations. But I just can't help but compare it to the original Evil Dead trilogy, and I'm like, this sucks. Sorry. I know that's a popular film, so I don't know. Crucify me if you want, I suppose. Then there is the 2009 remake of The Last House on the Left, which I gotta say, I don't know. I was thinking about putting it solid remake, but honestly, I really love that film. I think it is phenomenal. I think that it is much better than you would think looking at that poster and everything, and you know, you're expecting some sort of exploitative bullshit, and to an extent it is. I have not seen the original though. Sorry. I don't know if that's blasphemous. I don't know if the original is all that well respected or anything. I don't really care about watching the original all that much either. I don't know. I do and I don't, because I want to have seen all the Wes Craven films at some point, but I don't know. I just feel like the original of that film's not going to be that great. The remake though, I actually think is really, really great. Aaron Paul shows up. He's one of the main characters in here. Definitely a very early on performance that's kind of interesting to watch if you're a big Breaking Bad fan going back. But yeah, The Last House on the Left though has kind of a much more unique story than you might be expecting. Like, you know, it is mainly torture porn kind of shit, but there is kind of a bit more of moral ambiguity to it, as the parents of one of the victim that gets attacked in this film. What the parents do from there is kind of an interesting moral dilemma about what they should do, and that just grips me. That makes the film really good for me. Like it elevates it for me much more than what it could have been if it didn't involve that element to it, if that makes any sense. Then there is The Last House on the Left, which I accidentally uploaded 2 pictures of that, but that's fine. Then there is the Chucky TV show. I chucked in a couple TV shows here just because, I don't know, why not? So yeah, this is the sci-fi show that came out last year. I'm gonna put that in solid remake, solid film, whatever. It's a TV show, but you know, I think it was good. I was loving it at first. It dropped off a little bit for me, if I'm being honest. Then there's I Spit on Your Grave, which is basically also The Last House on the Left. Very similar, but doesn't have that kind of element to it that makes The Last House on the Left a bit more interesting to me. I'm putting it in solid remake. Again, I haven't seen the original of that either. This is a gross film, I have to say. Like, it's not exactly this is also not a well-respected film, either of them, the original or this one. And like, you know, I don't think it's great. I don't think it's the best thing ever, but there's a part of me that's like, oh man, that's some brutal stuff, and I'm kind of for it. A little bit. I don't know. I think it's alright. Then there is the 2013 Carrie remake. And I gotta be honest, that's going in top tier shit as well. That might be an unpopular opinion, I don't know, because I don't think a lot of people absolutely love that film. I surprisingly do. I actually think it's really solid. And sorry, but I haven't seen the original. Then there is the Purge TV show, which is kind of a remake, I suppose. This might not count, arguably, which is fair enough because, you know, The Purge is new. And so, I don't know. If you think this is more reboot than remake because it's not telling the exact same story, I can see that argument, but I put it here anyway. I don't know why, and I'm putting it in solid remake because, yeah, it's solid. It's alright. It's a good show. Then there is the Friday the 13th remake from 2009 starring Jared Padalecki, and it's better than the original. Oh, is that controversial to say? I think the Friday the 13th from 2009 is one of the absolute best of that whole series. Sorry, I tend to lean to the newer stuff. I like Freddy vs. Jason, and I like the 2009 Friday the 13th, probably the most of them all. If I had to go with, you know, one from the original line, I'd probably go with Part 4. That's probably the strongest out of those films. But yeah, if we're talking just against the original, which this is a remake of, man, the 2009 version runs circles around the original, if you ask me. I think it's really fantastic stuff. That cold open where he's killing just a bunch of random people in the first like 20 minutes, best. I just love it. I just love it so much. And then the rest of the film's really good too. I don't know. What do you want me to say? I like it. Then there is the 2015 American remake of Martyrs, which should not have been made. It shouldn't have been made. Unnecessary. It shouldn't have been made. It's about as simple as that, really. Then there's the Wrong Turn movie from last year, from 2021. And I honestly have to put this above as well with better than the original. The Wrong Turn remake from 2021 surprised the hell out of me. I thought it was going to be, you know, I was looking forward to it, but I thought it was going to be kind of mid-shit. I wasn't expecting huge stuff from it, but I liked it so much that I've watched it a couple times now. And I honestly think it's so much more, interesting, I think, that it will get credit for. No, it's not really that relevant to the original franchise of Wrong Turn, so it probably could have been called anything else, but I still find it pretty interesting how it kind of delves into the whole cult idea. Then next up is the 2018 Suspiria, which I have a strong hatred for. Sorry if you're a fan of it, but to me, it's nonsense. The Suspiria remake is just a bunch of nonsense. I don't understand what's going on. I just think it's a bunch of crap. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude to it. I probably just don't understand it, if I'm being honest, but I don't think that the film even tried to explain itself, to be honest. I honestly just think it's kind of hipster crap, if I'm being honest, and I think that's going to piss some people off, but that's how I felt when I watched it. I fucking hated the experience of watching the Suspiria remake. I'm sorry, I just did. And I haven't seen the original. Sorry. Then there is the Hitcher remake, which again is another one that I haven't seen the original of. Sorry. I remember it being good. To be honest, I haven't seen it for many a year, and I don't remember it that well. So I'm not going to talk about that too much. Sorry. I remember it being good. I don't know, somebody gets torn in half with with a car or a truck or whatever. Anyway, then there is the Rob Zombie Halloween remake from 2007, and I have a very complicated relationship with this film because while I'm not as opposed to explaining Michael Myers' psyche as much as a lot of other people are, I like the exploration of that. I like kind of going down the rabbit hole of maybe what turned him into what he is later down the line. I'm not opposed to that idea. I don't think it ruins the mystique personally, but I just don't like Rob Zombie films, man. I just don't like the, I'm gonna skull fuck ya, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna, all the disgusting dialogue, all the just horrible, ugh. I hate it. I hate it so much. It's so off-putting, and it ruins the film for me. I think that this really could have been a good film, but I just think Rob Zombie, I don't know, man, he just tarnished it to me. I'm gonna put it in whatever, it's fine, because I respect elements to it, but for the most part, I really hate that film. Yeah, so it's gonna go there. Is it better than the original? No, we know it's not, so whatever. Then there is the Child's Play remake from 2019, which famously, if you watched my Child's Play ranking and death ranking and stuff from last year, and my review of it from the time a few years ago, I love that film, and I actually think it's the best Child's Play film, and I don't feel too proud of that fact, because it's a remake and whatever, and you're kind of, you're molded to believe that remakes are bad in society. We live in a society. You see, I feel like I was taught that remakes are the enemy, growing up. But they are not, and the Child's Play 2019 remake, I think, is fantastic. Look, I do think that some of the other ones, like Child's Play 2, for instance, is probably about on par. I really love that film as well. But I honestly, I don't know. I love the 2019 movie. I don't need to keep defending myself. It's my list. Shut up. Then there is The Ring, the 2002 The Ring. Remake of a Japanese film, I believe, called Ringu. And The Ring, to me, is going in its fine. I'm sorry. I know that's a very popular movie to a lot of people. I've never really liked The Ring all that much. I think that the whole investigation-y thing kind of leads to nothing. A lot of that film is about finding out the mystery. And then the answer to the mystery of what's going on is just, it's ghost supernatural shit. And it's like, well, I assumed going in, I kind of already knew that. So this feels like a waste of time. To me, it's not really a rewatchable film because of that. And I also think that, I don't know, just there's kind of like the ex machina of explaining how to defeat the ghost. It kind of feels like the writer just was like, okay, so we don't know how to kill the ghost. How do we do it? Let's make something up. This is her weakness, okay? This is how you do it. To me, that just doesn't feel as earned as other sorts of more grounded horror films where it's like, I know how to defeat the villain. It's just hard to do it. But The Ring is like, you need to find out how to do it. And then once you find out how to do it, it's like, I don't know. To me, it just feels like anything can happen. That this lends into me preferring grounded horror films over, supernatural horror, which I love plenty of supernatural horror as well, but just generally I like grounded horror films. And the Ring to me just doesn't, I don't know, I just don't like it all that much, I'm sorry. Anyway, then there is The Grudge from 2020, I believe, and I'm putting that in the same category. Honestly, actually, you know what? No, a mistake. The Grudge is much worse. I changed my mind. That was just a straight up bad film. Regardless of my taste for grounded or supernatural horror films or whatever, regardless of any other complaints I could have, I just gotta say, The Grudge is bad. The Grudge is bad, sorry. Then there is Fright Night, the what year did that come out? 2011? 11, I'm gonna guess. The 2011 remake of Fright Night. This, again, like The Hitcher, it's one that I haven't seen in a while. I haven't seen the original. I remember enjoying it quite a bit. Then I remember rewatching it and not enjoying it as much that second time. So, I don't know. I don't really remember it enough to give my huge thoughts on, if I'm being honest. Then there's the Black Christmas 2019 film, which is honestly just a mistake and shouldn't have been made. I think that film is atrocious. I think that is unapologetically just in your face about every single thing that it can be, and nothing is subtle about it. Nothing is clever. It's just a dumb movie to me. I don't know. I don't hugely respect that movie. I just think it's so on the nose for what it's trying to do. And if you want something that does what it's trying to do but heaps better, Men that came out this year, I think does it heaps better. Then there is The Hills Have Eyes, the 2006 remake. And I'm going to put that in It's Just Fine. I'm not a huge fan of that movie. I haven't seen the original, to be honest, but that movie to me has just always come off as like, it's just very cruel for the sake of it, and it's not that enjoyable to watch to me, but it's also not like intense or anything either. Like, I'm not like, I don't know, I'm never on the edge of my seat watching that movie. I just don't really care about it, and maybe that's on me. Maybe that's my bad, but I just don't think it's that great. Then there is the 2017 It remake, the infamous or famous, more famous to be honest, It. This is the movie that fucking blew up a few years ago. I watched it in America when I was on my honeymoon, actually, I remember. And I gotta say, you know, it's better than the original. I'm putting that right to the top. You know, that's a great film. I don't love it quite as much as everybody else does. I do think it's a little bit overrated, if I'm being honest, just a little bit. I think it's a really great film. I just don't love it as much as everybody else does, but it is really good. But it is definitely going right to the top because it is definitely a very solid, great film. And it's heaps better than the original, if you ask me. The original is weird, man. Yeah, I watched the original after the 2017 one, and yeah, it's, oh man, it's heaps and bounds better. Is that the term? The 2017 one is a lot better. Then there is the Bates Motel TV show, the remake, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, adaptation of Psycho. And I gotta put that right to the top as well because I think that is better than the original. Not because the original is not good. The original is a horror classic. I respect it very highly. But it's better than the original just because of the time invested. You know, you really get to know these characters and there's just so much more to it. There's so much more in depth. That's just being a TV show that really put it above the film, if I'm being honest. Just fundamentally, that alone made it better just because you spent so much more time with these characters and you begin to really love them, even if you shouldn't. And I just find it fascinating. I really love that show. I've watched it like 3 times. I think it's really underrated because you never hear anybody talking about it, like ever. And I think it's hugely respectable. Then there's the 2004 remake of Dawn of the Dead, which is actually directed by Zack Snyder of all people. And to be honest, I'm putting that to the top as well. I think that is better than the original. George A. Romero's version, I find surprisingly boring. While I love Night of the Living Dead and I love Day of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead though, the original Dawn of the Dead, I'm not the biggest fan of it, to be honest. Like, I think I went in expecting that one to be my absolute favorite, and it wasn't. I don't know what to tell you, but the 2004 remake of Dawn of the Dead it's kind of a childhood classic to me. I watched that film on repeat. I used to love that movie. I found it hilarious when they killed zombies and stuff. I found the running zombies absolutely terrifying. Of course, it's kind of a rip-off of 28 Days Later, but that's fine. That's fine. Running zombies is kind of in the, you know, anyone can use it. But I just love the premise. I feel like the premise being in the shopping center, in the mall, as the Americans would call it, is utilized so much better in the 2004 remake than it is in the original. I feel like the kind of metaphor for consumerism and all that shit, it all comes through so much stronger than in the original, which came off as surprisingly bland to me. The 2004 remake, though, it's up there as one of the greatest zombie movies, if you ask me. Maybe the greatest. Maybe. I'm not sure. Then there is the Scream TV show, which I've seen a couple of the seasons of, I think. I don't really remember it that well. It didn't leave that much of an impact. I remember liking it, like, quite a bit, but, like, not loving it. And I haven't seen it for a long time. It's going in solid. It's a 3-star film, even though it's a TV show. Not as good as the original franchise, of course it's not. There's some cringe stuff to it, whatever. It's very teenagey, which isn't exactly that appealing to me. You know, it's very like teenage drama-ish. But it's good. It's good, but just not that great. And I hate the mask. The mask is terrible in the Scream TV show. Like, it's sickeningly, frustratingly bad. It like, every time I see it, it's like, who thought that was a good idea? That looks so bad to me. I don't know. Then there is the Hannibal TV show, of course, being a remake of the Hannibal series, Silence of the Lambs and Red Dragon and all that stuff. And where am I putting it? Straight to the top, baby. Hannibal is the best Hannibal adaptation that's out there. It's fantastic. Much like Bates Motel right there, you get to spend way more time with these characters. Everything is much more in depth, and it really doesn't seem to have any limitations for where it's able to go. Being on television and stuff in 2013, you'd think that it would be somewhat restrained, but no. Hannibal is a gory show. Hannibal is very much about, you know, cannibalism and other dark themes like that. It doesn't shy away from all those sorts of themes, and it's honestly just incredible stuff as well. Like, it is one of the most intelligent television shows to probably ever exist. And Mads Mikkelsen is the best Hannibal that probably could exist out there. Like, I'm mad for Mads. He's amazing. He's amazing in that role. Then there is the Night of the Living Dead remake from 90 something. It's from the 90s. And I watched this for the first time last year because I'll tell you why. Funny story. I bought the Blu-ray, which is up there, which is off screen, you can't see, intending for it to be the original. I thought it was the original, but it turned out to be this remake. And I was kind of pissed because that's not what I wanted. And I'm going to put it in, honestly, it's fine. Because while I think it's good, I do think, honestly, it probably deserves to be put in the 3-star film category right there. Because I think it's good. I think it's a 3-star film. I actually do. But I'm going to put it one further down because it's honestly just an insult to the original, as I was kind of referring to before. This is the one that I'm probably most against when it comes to these remakes. Because it's just the exact same thing. They don't really adapt it in any way. They don't really advance the story in some sort of different way. It's just the exact same story, but done worse, if you ask me. It's not as good. Sure, it's in color. So that doesn't make the film better. And, you know, it's also retroactively modern feeling. You know, it's very 90s. It feels like it's trying to be very modern, but now it's outdated. And it's like, well, I might as well just watch the original. What's the point of this film, if that makes any sense? To me, this Night of the Living Dead remake is just entirely unnecessary. I don't think it's bad, but it's just so unnecessary. It's just, I don't know, just watch the original. It just feels like a waste of your time. Then there is the 2015 Poltergeist remake. I have not seen the original, and that's going straight to solid remake. It's all right. That's a fine movie. It's whatever. Then for the main event, the big dog, the elephant in the room, the biggest of them all, the one that everybody hates, the most controversial, dare I say, the one that everybody probably wants me to talk about most. A Nightmare on Elm Street, the 2010 remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street, is an insult, according to some people. Some people think that it absolutely shouldn't have been made, especially without Robert Englund, and especially just a lot of people are adamantly against this Nightmare on Elm Street remake. And I was for a time, I was like, well, this is clearly not as good. This is clearly not as good. But you know what? People are too harsh to this film. I don't think it's that bad. I actually think it's kind of good. Is that a hot take? I think it very much is. I think that A Nightmare on Elm Street remake, to be honest, it's not top tier, okay? It's not better than the original. Fuck no, it's not. Of course it's not. But I'm putting it in solid. I enjoy that film enough to not consider it just an absolute insult to me. I think that it's a respectable remake. And I think people are going to think I'm crazy for thinking that. But the 2009 Friday the 13th and the 2010 Nightmare on Elm Street films are really movies that got me into the genre a little bit. Like, not fully, you know, Saw and Insidious were the big ones that got me into the horror genre. But I loved Friday the 13th, 2009 when I was a kid, to be honest, because I used to find it funny. I wasn't scared of it. I used to find the gore stuff funny, and I rewatched it. A Nightmare on Elm Street, I didn't come along to until a bit later, but I remember watching it for the first time and liking it quite a bit. And, you know, while I highly, highly, highly respect the original so much more, and while I love that original franchise so much more, and I have huge nostalgia for it, and it's special to me. And I love Freddy. I love Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger, and I love that franchise. I still think that the remake cops too much shit. I think that people are way too against it. One of the big arguments is that he's turned into a child molester, not just a killer. My argument is a little bit, it's like, well, they're both pretty fucking bad. I don't know. I see the argument because it's like you didn't have to specify, you didn't have to explicitly say that he steps over that line because it's gross and unnecessary. And it's like, can we not kind of delve into that too heavily? But honestly, it was always implied in the original. I feel like people pretend it wasn't. I feel like, oh, he's just a killer, so it's okay. Both are fucking abhorrent. Is that the way you pronounce that? Both are horrible, horrible things. And to me, yes, while they pointed it out, that was unnecessary and it kind of put the film down that much more, it was always kind of an implication. And I just don't hate this remake as much as everybody else, I guess. It's definitely not as good, but it's not the worst thing that's ever existed, in my opinion. Sorry. Anyway, let's fucking move on from that. Then there's Prom Night from, I believe, 2008, which is fine. I don't know. I have seen the original of that. The original's not a good film. The remake's not a very good film. It's whatever. It's fine. It's about as simple as that, really. They are just not great films. Then there is the 2019 Pet Sematary remake, which I have not seen the original, but I honestly really enjoy that film. I think it's really, really solid stuff, and it's going to top tier shit. I haven't seen the original, top tier shit. That's where it's going. I don't know if that's a hot take. I think a lot of people don't actually like that film all that much. I liked it quite a bit. Then there is The Last House on the Left, which I already talked about. The last two here, though, are the Chainsaw Massacre remakes of the times. There have been more in between. You know, there was the beginning that came out after the 2003 remake. There was Leatherface. There was the 2013 one just called Texas Chainsaw. I'm just focusing, though, on this year's 2022 Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I think is solid. I liked that movie quite a bit. It was dumb. It wasn't as good as, like, a lot of what came before it. It was maybe better than the original. I'm not the biggest fan of the original as much as everybody else is. I think it's definitely one that you should highly respect, but no, it's not better than the original. What am I saying? No, it's not, but it's solid. It's fun. It's dumb fun, and that's all it needed to be. I had fun with it. I think it's fine. It goes in 3 stars. But then there's the 2003 remake, which was the one that really brought Leatherface and Chainsaw Massacre back, and that I do think is better than the original. That I think is the best Chainsaw Massacre movie that has ever been made. The 2003 remake is the one that introduced me to it. I'm sorry, I know that it's kind of a trend there where these remakes and the later ones in the 2000s and stuff are the ones that introduced me to these films. That's just got to do with my age, I suppose. This is the one that made me fall in love with it. And every other film since has kind of disappointed me in comparison because nothing touches it. The 2003 remake is absolutely incredible. It's so intense, and it's really actually pretty terrifying. Like, while I'm watching it, no, I'm not like that scared, you know, but you know, if you put yourself in the shoes of these characters, it's pretty damn intimidating, you know, the situation that they find themselves in. I think it's really good. I think the 2000 remake is really awesome. Then The Last House on the Left, which I already talked about and didn't mean to have there at all, can go next to the other Last House on the Left. And that's it. That's what the tier looks like, okay? That is the horror remake tier thingy that I've done that you've just watched, and that's about it. That's that. Cool. So thank you for watching. Please do the things. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'm gonna skedaddle. Goodbye.